Modernizing Indian Railways has been a big cornerstone of the Modi government, and of course he was handpicked by the Prime Minister himself. Who better than Suresh Prabhu right here on Modi's A-team as the government celebrates 3 years in office. Thank you very much for being with us, sir. Your government's motto was Achhe Din. You were handpicked to bring in Achhe Din for Indian Railways. Some amount of work has of course happened and you should be congratulated for that. What leg of the work needs to still be covered?
You know, let me tell you, there are two important things that needs to be done. Because let us look at what is railway really. It must transport people, you must transport goods.
That's right.
And do it efficiently and do it in a convenient manner for the people. For both you need infrastructure. Unfortunately, in the last 70-80 years, we never invested into infrastructure. The rate of infrastructure investment in railways has the first time gone up since independence, as percent of GDP also significantly now.
That's right.
Under the Modi government. We used to invest typically in the last 10 years of UPA government, if you take, the average expenditure used to be about 37,000 crores. In the first 3 years, we have set aside 3,75,000 crores for the capital investment. In addition to this, the 40,000 crores of diesel and electric locomotive factory which will come up, 1 lakh crores of high-speed railway that is going to come up between Mumbai and Ahmedabad, the station redevelopment program which is going to happen, and many others which will bring in additional investment to the railways. So railways is going to get in, and then private freight terminals which has increased significantly, the private siding which are also gone up. So all of this will lead to a huge investment into the railways infrastructure, which is so key to bring in these two key elements of transporting that is railway need to do. How is it going to help? I'll just give one number. 16% of network handles 60% of the traffic.
That's right.
If you don't invest there, so if you invest, but you must invest at the right place. If you invest there, obviously the congestion will go down. You can run the trains with faster speed. You can bring in more people to the railways. You can bring more freight trains to the railways. Obviously that means more revenue to the railways. And all of this had not been done. So we are on track of doing that.
Right.
In the last 2.5 years, we have sanctioned 16,500 kilometers of doubling, tripling and everything, which in comparison to in the previous 70 years, we have done only 20,000 kilometers plus. Secondly, in the first several decades of electrification, we have only electrified 42% of lines. So we have sanctioned now all lines to be electrified in the next 5 years. That means we'll double it. All meter gauge will be converted to broad gauge, and as it is converted to broad gauge, this also will get electrified. Right. So all of this together is a tremendous work in progress, which is going to already started resulting into benefit to the economy. But the network as such in 2020, which is again, I'm not giving any other number, I'm not changing the goalpost. Right. What was stated in my budget speech clearly, gave a white paper, 2 budget speeches which were given, had a completely clear-cut roadmap, all under implementation. The action taken report was presented before the parliament, and now what has been done so far will result into substantial increase in the handling capacity of the railways, and that will benefit the system as well.
So let me ask you a very frank question. You were brought in to modernize the railways, and some of the steps that you just outlined have done that. Privatization, and I'm going to begin with the more, the more controversial subject, so to say. Privatization has always been a very taboo word of sorts in Indian Railways. When will we see private operators being allowed to ply trains in this country? Will that be a possibility? Will that be a reality?
We are allowing private train operators now to operate a freight train. So we've already done that.
What about
we are allowing, no, but let us start with freight, because if somebody comes and shows interest, if private trains are different thing, please anybody is interested, let them come. Then we can find out a ways of doing it. Number 2, we already started working on private freight terminals. The largest ever private terminal came up this year. We are already allowing private siding to come up. We are also now doing private development of new rail terminals, the passenger station terminals, or redevelopment of the existing ones. That is also done through the private sector participation. We are allowing private manufacturing of rolling stock for the railways, and then we are giving a buyback guarantee for that. So private participation is not a taboo. It's something which is most welcome. Only thing I am just saying is, the core operation of railways, it is something which is so complex. So we have to modernize it. We have to put it on proper track. Today the trains are running late, which is a very unfortunate thing because of congestion. There is only almost all networks, the busy network, are operating at 150-160% of capacity. That's a very sad state of affairs. So we need to correct that, and to correct that we need to invest. To invest, that takes time to materialize the benefit.
So you are telling me that you've taken one step towards allowing the private operators to come in and operate the freight trains. We are perhaps a step away from private participation in passenger traffic?
You know, there is always a possibility of what, see, it's a very clear golden rule for this. What benefits the railways should be done. If private sector participation in the railways operation will benefit the railways, it should be done. And therefore, we are very clear about it. What is good for the railways should be done. And that's why outcome-oriented approach should be adopted. That what is the outcome? Is it going to improve efficiency? It is going to bring in more traffic to the railways. It is going to bring in more benefit to the railways. It is going to improve customer experience of the railways. All of that, what would happen, should be done.
I think one of the things that you've done very successfully, and I think you deserve a huge congratulations, is that you've taken the politics out of fare at least. Because every time fares would go up, there were these political hoodwinks that would come, and you know, it was always a controversial subject. So at least you've taken care of that. Given the fact that the budget talks about fixing tariffs in line with several other factors, should one brace up for a hike both for passenger and freight? And also, I mean, if I may club a question there, the Rail Development Authority has now been ratified by the Cabinet. When will we see appointments? What sort of a role is it going to play as far as tariffs and everything else is concerned? You know, we already, as you know, the Cabinet has already approved it. That's right. Now, this is the first time its authority is created, so obviously creation of post is an important issue. So Department of Personnel and Training, which is looking into that, as soon as they give us approval, we'll fill up the post and we'll get the right people in the place. This will do 4 major functions. Fixing, as you correctly said, freight and fare, but based on efficiency parameters. Because it is no longer a good idea just to keep transferring my cost onto you and you must pay for it because I have incurred higher cost. Doesn't make sense. So we must improve the efficiency parameters which they will set. They will also decide the type of technology that should be introduced into this. So some technical experts will guide them, because normally induction of technology into any organization is always a challenge, because the people who are working on it will feel that they are the best available. What is outside, people may think they're trying to push their own technology. So while railways will decide, there will be also push for better modernization of railways coming from the regulatory frameworks. And the fourth, they will also decide about the private-public participation to ensure that there is a proper trade-off between private and public interest. You know, freight is a big revenue stream for the railways as well, and which is why there's a lot of focus out there. There is some amount of concern that people are raising, given the emphasis that there is on shipping and on ports and all of that. Will railway freight get more competition, and also competition that's coming in from roads right now? How are you gearing up to tackle all of that competition? Is that competition something that's a challenge for railways? So it is already a challenge. In the last several years, we have been seeing a declining share of freight. That's right. In the railways. We decided to arrest this trend, and in the last 3 months of the previous financial year and the first almost 2 months of the current year, we are seeing an upswing. Why? Because we decided to revisit the freight policy. We had taken a number of measures on freight, which is long-term contracts, giving discounts, reducing the freight, talking to the customer and understanding his concern and deciding based on that, segmented approach, that cement will have separate approach, steel will have separate approach, and not only that, the last 10 commodities, which are the bulk of the railway's revenue source, we are trying to diversify the freight basket and try to get in another 30 more commodities into it, including the fastest growing segment of freight, that's the parcel business. So all of that is being done. So it's already a challenge. But to ensure that it happens, for example, I told you about this private freight terminal. What will happen? The private freight terminal will bring in a different type of cargo near the doors of the railways. So what will the job of the freight operator? He'll be aggregating it. In fact, the railways had traditionally been, and this is not something you can blame the railways, because this has been happening over several decades in the railways, that they are depending on bulk, steel, cement, coal and stuff like that. Why not we go into the other cargo? And therefore, if you go to other cargo, then we have a different strategy. Which kind of cargo are you referring to? So you talk about parcel business, I talked to you about. You talked about freight, fruits and vegetables, you talked about. You talked about other type of agriculture commodities, transportation, you talk about. Yeah, when you take commodities. Why should this resort to something like trucks? Why can the railways not do it? Also, there are the advantages, and then that is one part. Secondly, as you said, competition is already there. Now, whether we should fight the competition or we complement with them. If we are
want to send, say, onions, which we actually now started transporting this year also. You want to send onions from Nasik, which is the Lasalgaon is a major source of onion, into south. Obviously, long-term transportation railway is good, but having gone to south, taking it from south to the real consumer destination, trucks can play a role. So you want to complement. Now you asked me a very important question, just tell you 1 second.
Yeah.
You told me about which are the new segment. Auto is a very big market. You must have seen all the trucks carrying the made cars. We started at Auto Hub in Chennai, and now we have started getting a good share of that business. Also what we are doing is Ro-Ro service. If you can put the truck onto the track, which the Konkan Railway has been doing for a while, we have started doing it in Delhi. We'll also get more share. So actually what we need to think is even smallest of the cargo segment which is available in the market, you should try to get it, provided your ears are to the ground. You cannot sit in the railway board and get the freight there.
Transporting steel when there is such little demand for steel. That's a very pragmatic thing. I think auto is a very good point that we must make a mention of. But you know, you said that if I want to transport onions from Nasik to south, that's good. But from south to somewhere, maybe trucks can do it. And that is where this whole partnership with commodity players is concerned, time-bound freight travel. When will we see that happen? No,
100%. This is the only way it can happen. Is you must complement with all other important players.
So are you looking at these kind of tie-ups?
Absolutely. In fact, again, I will just remind you, the first budget that I presented to the Parliament, the cornerstone of that budget speech was partnership.
That's right.
I said we'll do it with state governments, which are now about 8 to 9 states have already come forward. We are signing the joint venture agreement. We'll do it with private sector. That's how the freight terminals, etc. are coming up. We need to find out the partnership with all competing players. We cannot survive without the competition. In fact, with the shipping ministry, we are already working on port connectivity by making a joint company. All that we need to do, because without that we will not be able to survive. Competition is real. You know, in fact, for long we thought that railways competition is something which we not worry. So organization must get geared up to face the competition, number one. That will start with the mindset changing. The mindset change would mean that we must accept the reality. If we don't accept the reality, there is competition. So therefore, that is what is the come in last 2 years.
And I think that's where you play a large role, changing mindsets. Talking about competition, one has also seen that in a lot of cases, and I think the Finance Minister and various of the ministers have made this mention. I'm going to come to the GST right now. We are seeing increasing competition from the airline as far as railways are concerned. You know, the traffic for second AC and third AC has grown up, at least airfares have grown up substantially. Under the GST, the rail ticketing and an economy class fare in the aviation sector is under the 5% tax bracket. Isn't that something that you need to raise objections to?
I think, of course, this is a very larger issue and we need to talk to the Finance Minister and others. But you know, the railways on the long term, you know, you cannot equate railways, because the people who travel by railways and people who travel by airlines are different. At the same time, the competition is real again, because they are reducing the tariff. 2,500 rupees is that they are planning for the remote areas. Now we need to therefore fix our strategy. One of the strategies that's why we launched Tejas. People are thinking, those who travel by those trains, that they are getting experience of an airline, and it's many people. I mean, see, ultimately we cannot get 100% of the traffic. They will survive, we'll survive. But at the same time, if you want to get something more incrementally from what you have got already, then you must have a strategy and launch new products. So if you have noticed, in the last year we launched 4 new products. We launched Mahanama Express, we launched the Mahanama Express but we launched Tejas, we launched Tejas for upmarket, we launched Humsafar for the middle class, we launched Antyodaya for really normal passengers paying this. We are launching Uday, which will for a business traveler. You can leave at night and you reach in the morning, so you don't pay on the hotel, because this will be good for the SMEs, and we'll do that. So we are actually thinking of launching products which will cater to the specific market. Because competition is there, we must do that.
No, I agree with you. You're going by a sector by sector, product by product approach. But the fact is that at one level, if I just see it as a commentator, as just an objective spectator of what's happening, I think what's going to happen over the next few years is that airlines will cannibalize railway passenger traffic. And isn't this something, as a railway minister, you need to take it up within your cabinet, within your government? I mean, if airline tickets are going to be capped at 2,500 rupees and rail passengers and airline passengers have to pay 5% tax, the profile of two passengers is very different.
You know, that brings us to a very important point, as you said. It's a larger part of public policy.
Precisely.
Whether you want whenever your taxation policy, your public policy, you must support one segment of that. See, if we want to support renewables, then obviously you must tax the coal more and reduce the renewables, so renewable will get promoted. Same way, the railways, anywhere in the world, can survive on public policy as well as on public service obligation. So, large part of public policy must encourage railways, and if you don't do that, then obviously there is a cost that railways still will have to run. We have created this huge infrastructure for the railways, so that will come in the form of public service obligation. For the first time, I have talked to Niti Aayog, and we are trying to work on a formula by which public service obligation can be met by the railways.
Let me not beat around the bush. Let me ask you a direct, candid question. Are you going to take up the 5% bracket in which you and airlines have been put together with the Finance Ministry so that the GST Council can...
So, no, obviously we'll talk to him. We are going to take it up. Definitely we'll take it up because this is going to put additional burden and probably will take away the passenger traffic from us. So, we'll definitely take it up with them. Definitely.
So, that's the thing that you... I want to speak to you about something that the markets are very excited about, and as I wind this interview, a slew of railway companies proposed for listing: IRFC, Arcon, RISE, IRCTC. When do we see some of these listings to begin? Do you expect all of these to be completed this fiscal?
We already started the process of preparing all the preparatory work that was necessary. In fact, that was already started last year.
Yes.
So, we are working on that. We are working with the Ministry of Finance. As you know, the disinvestment is something which is handled at that ministry level. So, we are giving them all cooperation, all support that is necessary to do that, and therefore it is almost on track.
Is there a back-up envelope calculation of the kinds of funds that you are looking to raise with these listings?
I think too early to say, because this is something which depends upon the market condition then prevailing, the pricing of what is the pricing for public issue, IPO, and all that will depend upon that. But I think we are on track of doing that.
I have a last question to ask of you, sir. IRCTC, I'm sure, will find a lot of takers. But IRFC is largely a fundraising arm, so to say. Why should that find takers in markets?
You know, see, there are people who have got appetite for all different types of stocks. This one comes into the financial services segment, IRFC. Ircon will come into the segment of infrastructure creation. IRCTC obviously will come into the e-commerce segment. So I think there are different takers for different types of stocks. So I think there will be possibly, but also, as you correctly said, it's always possible because market condition. That's why I'm telling you that it all depends on the market condition end of the day. So how the market condition will prevail will determine the value as well as the volume.
I must compliment you on keeping politics out of Indian railways after many, many years of railways being completely politicized. But I must ask you a personal question. Are you still awake at night replying to tweets that come in on trains being delayed or tickets not being refunded and things like that? Does that keep the railway minister awake at night, which it used to when the last time we met?
This is a very important, see, basically we must accept the fact that this is a customer-driven organization. So we must cater to the complaints of the people, we must address them, we must respond to them. So we have set a very robust system in place. Now wherever complaint comes in, I definitely look into it personally, but also made sure that an institutionalized approach is adopted to this. So therefore we are now making sure that all complaints are dealt with. A docket is prepared as soon as the complaint is received. Wherever it is, we follow it up till that complaint is not addressed, and therefore it keeps open. And changing the system is the only way to address a complaint. So we are constantly changing the system all the time, whether it is booking of ticket, whether it is refund, as you mentioned. Trains getting delayed is of course an institutionalized issue thanks to the lack of infrastructure. But we are working on all the issues in a holistic manner.
So changing the face of Indian Railways, my guest, Mr. Suresh Prabhu. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Find us on Facebook at facebook.com/ETNow, and don't forget to click the like button. You can also follow us on Twitter at ETNowLive. To stay updated with all our programming, hit the subscribe button on our YouTube channel by logging on to youtube.com/ETNow.